You will fall. Not once, not twice, but again and again. And when you do, the world will watch. Some will laugh. Some will whisper that you're finished. And the most dangerous voice of all, the one inside you, will tell you to stay down. But here's the secret no one told you. Falling doesn't break you. Staying down does. So let me ask you, what if every fall was not the end, but the beginning? What if every scar was a map? What if the moment you're most ashamed of is the very moment that could make you unstoppable? Stay with me, because once you hear this, you'll never look at failure or yourself the same way again. We all fall. It is the only law no one escapes. Gravity pulls the body to the ground, and life pulls the soul to its knees. The child, learning to walk, falls. His little feet wobble, his balance collapses, and his face hits the floor. He cries. But then he pulls himself up again. Without even knowing it, he has performed the most fundamental ritual of human growth. The student chasing his first exam falls. He studies, but anxiety clouds his memory, and the grade stares back at him like a wound. He feels stupid, ashamed. Some quit here, deciding that learning is not for them. Others rise, study harder, and discover resilience in failure. The young adult starting their career falls. They work hard, yet the promotion goes to someone else. They feel invisible, unworthy. Some stay bitter forever, convinced the world is rigged against them. Others rise, sharpening their skills, adapting, learning the art of influence. The lover, dreaming of forever, falls. They give their heart to another, only to watch it shattered. They feel betrayed, foolish, for believing. Some close their heart forever, building walls that suffocate them. Others rise, scarred but stronger, wiser in the ways of love. Even the elder, who once stood tall, falls. Age weakens the body, memory slips, and once powerful hands tremble. But even here, the rise is possible. Not in muscles or speed, but in wisdom, grace, dignity. Falling is universal. And yet, why are we always shocked when it happens? Why do we treat it like an accident, an exception, a shameful secret? We whisper, maybe I'm not good enough. We hide our scars as though they disqualify us from being human. But falling does not make you broken. Falling makes you human. The difference is in what comes after. Let me tell you a story from the workplace. Two colleagues are fired on the same day. One collapses into despair. He spends months blaming management, posting angry rants, waiting for someone to call him back. A year later, he is still unemployed, still bitter. The other takes the same layoff as a challenge. She updates her skills, networks relentlessly, reinvents herself. A year later, she has built a new career, stronger than before. The same fall. Two different rises. In relationships, it is no different. Two people are betrayed by partners. One swears off love forever, convinced no one can be trusted. The other, though scarred, studies their own patterns, heals their wounds, and enters love, again this time with stronger boundaries and deeper wisdom. Falling is universal. But rising is rare. And this is where character is forged. Because, let us be honest, anyone can play strong when the wind is at their back. Anyone can look wise when the road is smooth. But when you fall, when your face is in the dirt, there is no pretending anymore. The mask is ripped off. Your true self is revealed. The fall does not define you. Your rise does. Think of the athlete. A sprinter trips in the middle of a race. The stadium gasps. He could crawl away, humiliated. But instead, he rises, blood on his knees, and finishes the race. The crowd roars, not because he won, but because he rose. Think of the artist. She releases her work, and critics tear it apart. She could abandon her craft forever. Instead, she rises, learns, improves, and creates again. Years later, she is celebrated not because she never failed, but because she refused to stay down. History remembers the risers. And yet, falling is not just personal. Entire societies fall. Economies collapse. Governments betray their people. Empires crumble. But even here, the story of humanity is not just in its falls, but in its rises. Civilizations rebuild. New leaders emerge. From ashes, cultures rise again. So why do we fear falling so much? Perhaps because falling feels like death. It is the death of your illusion of control. The death of the mask you wear. The death of the comfort you cling to. But death is not the end. Death is transformation. Think of a seed. It falls into the soil, buried in darkness. It cracks open, losing its form. From the outside, it looks like death. But within, something greater is rising. A root, a sprout, a tree. Think of steel. To become unbreakable, it must fall into fire. It must be hammered, bent, burned. Each strike looks like destruction, but each strike is shaping its strength. Think of yourself. Every time you fall, you are being tested. The question is not, why did I fall? The question is, what will I become because of it? This is the paradox of life. Without falling, there is no rising. Without pain, there is no growth. Without struggle, there is no strength. Yet most people live trying to avoid the fall. They choose safety over risk, comfort over growth, illusion over truth. They tiptoe through life, terrified of stumbling only to reach the end, having never truly lived. But some, just a few, embrace the fall. They know it is inevitable, so they prepare. They cultivate resilience. They practice rising. They fall, and fall again, until rising becomes their nature. And these few, these rare ones, become unshakable. So let me ask you, when was the last time you fell? When was the last time life broke you open? And more importantly, what did you do next? Did you stay down? Or did you rise? Because the truth is simple. You cannot control the fall, but you can always control the rise. That is where power lives. That is where freedom begins. The child who falls learns to walk. The student who fails learns to study. The worker who is rejected learns to adapt. The lover who is betrayed learns to guard their heart with wisdom. The elder who weakens learns to pass on strength in the form of stories. Every fall holds a gift if you rise to claim it. Falling is not your enemy. Falling is your invitation. The invitation to awaken. The invitation to transform. The invitation to rise. And so the first truth of life is not simply that we fall. The first truth is this: we all fall, but only a few rise. And it is those few who changed the world. Failure is not punishment. Failure is revelation. It is the mirror life holds up to your face. And here is the brutal truth. Most people are afraid to look. Why? Because mirrors do not lie. Mirrors expose. They strip away excuses, illusions, masks. And failure is the clearest mirror of all. Think about it. You fail at a job interview. What do you see? Not just rejection. You see the skills you lacked, the preparation you skipped, the doubts you carried into the room. You fail at a relationship. What do you see? Not just heartbreak. You see the patterns you ignored, the red flags you explained away, the wounds you carried in silently. You fail at a goal. You quit the gym after a month. You relapse into old habits. What do you see? Not just laziness. You see your fragile discipline, your hunger for comfort, your fear of long-term struggle. Failure reflects, and reflection hurts. That's why most people run from the mirror. They say, it wasn't my fault. They say, the world is unfair. They say, I didn't really care anyway. These are defense mechanisms. Psychology calls them rationalizations. The ego cannot bear to face its own cracks, so it hides. But let me tell you something. Growth begins where excuses end. Failure is not your enemy. Denial is. Every philosopher worth remembering has wrestled with this mirror. The Stoics taught, you cannot control the external, but you can control your response. When you fail, the mirror shows you what lies within your control and what never did. Buddhism teaches, Attachment is the root of suffering. When you fail, the mirror shows you what you were clinging to, and why it hurt so much to lose it. Nietzsche declared, "What does not kill you makes you stronger. But only if you look in the mirror. Only if you face the wound. Otherwise, failure just makes you bitter." Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate." Failure is the unconscious breaking through. It is the shadow showing itself in the mirror. So why do we avoid it? Because truth is terrifying. It is easier to say, "They rejected me because they are blind," than to ask, "What weakness in me did I refuse to strengthen?" It is easier to say, "They betrayed me because love is a lie," than to ask, "Why did I ignore the warning signs?" It is easier to say, "I failed because the system is unfair," than to admit, "I was not prepared." But here is the paradox. Only those who dare to face the mirror gain power from failure. Let me give you real examples. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times to create the light bulb. Each failure held up the mirror. Wrong filament, wrong design, wrong material. He looked, he learned, he adjusted. He rose. Michael Jordan, cut from his high school basketball team, could have stayed down. But the mirror showed him the truth. He wasn't good enough yet. So he practiced harder than anyone else. He rose. Oprah Winfrey, told she was unfit for television, could have accepted the label. Instead, she looked in the mirror, refined her craft, and built one of the most influential media empires in history. The mirror of failure is harsh. But it is also holy. It shows you what no friend dares to say, what no teacher can teach, what no book can explain. It shows you yourself. And once you see, you cannot unsee. That is why failure changes people. Some crumble. They look into the mirror, and the truth is too heavy. They turn away, blaming others, hiding from themselves. They never rise. Others, rare, extraordinary, look deeply, no matter how much it burns. And because they dare to see, they learn. They adapt. They transform. But this is not abstract philosophy. This is practical psychology. Imagine your workplace. You lead a project, and it collapses. The mirror shows you the truth. Maybe you delegated poorly. Maybe you avoided conflict. Maybe you ignored a risk. You can hide or you can rise. Change your leadership and build a stronger team. Imagine your personal life. You confess your feelings and you are rejected. The mirror shows you. Maybe you sought validation instead of connection. Maybe you projected fantasies instead of seeing reality. You can retreat into bitterness, or you can rise, love again, and this time with clarity. Imagine your health. You get a warning from your doctor. You are close to the edge. The mirror shows you. Late nights, poor diet, neglected exercise. You can deny it, or you can rise, reclaim your body, and extend your life. Failure is never random. It is specific. It points. It reveals. The question is, will you look? Because here's another truth. The mirror of failure does not just show weakness. It shows strength you didn't know you had. The student who fails a test may discover resilience he never tapped. The entrepreneur who loses everything may discover creativity born from desperation. The heartbroken may discover the power of independence. Sometimes failure shows you not just what is broken, but what is unbreakable. Think of a soldier in battle. He is knocked down, injured, bleeding. The mirror of failure says, "You are fragile, you are mortal." But it also says, "You are still breathing, you can still fight." Think of a parent who fails their child, losing patience, making mistakes. The mirror says, "You are imperfect." But it also whispers, "You care enough to regret, you love enough to want to do better." Failure is the mirror that cuts, but also the mirror that heals. And perhaps this is why so many spiritual traditions embrace it. In Christianity, Peter denies Christ 3 times. He falls. But in the mirror of failure, he sees his weakness. That vision transforms him into one of the most devoted apostles. In Buddhism, failure is built into the practice, falling into distraction, into craving, into ignorance. Each fall is a mirror, reminding the practitioner to rise again, to return to awareness. In Stoicism, Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself in his journal, confronting his own failures daily. The Emperor of Rome used failure as a mirror to discipline his mind. Even nature uses failure as a teacher. A bird must fall many times before it learns to fly. A tree's branches must break before it grows stronger roots. Rivers carve stone, not by avoiding resistance, but by failing against it, again and again, until persistence turns weakness into power. So let me turn the question to you. What failures have you hidden from? What mirrors have you refused to face? Was it the business you started that collapsed? The marriage that ended? The opportunity you wasted? The promise you broke to yourself? Have you been blaming others, hiding behind excuses, numbing the shame? Or have you faced the mirror, painful as it is, and asked, what is this failure trying to teach me? Because if you do not face it, it will return. The same patterns, the same wounds, the same illusions. Life does not move on until you do. But if you face it, if you dare to look into the mirror, something shifts. You stop seeing failure as an end. You start seeing it as a signal. And signals point the way forward. So remember this. Failure is not punishment. Failure is not proof of your inadequacy. Failure is revelation. It is the mirror of your life. The mirror that never lies. The mirror that demands you rise. Look into it. See what it shows. And then rise. Here is the tragedy. The fall is never what destroys you. It is staying down. Falling is natural. Staying down is a choice. Picture a boxer in the ring. He takes a hit, crashes to the floor. The crowd gasps. The referee starts to count. In that moment, he has two options. Rise, even with shaking legs. Or stay down, surrendering not just the fight, but his spirit. Life works the same way. When you fall, people will count you out. They will whisper, he's finished. She's done. They'll never come back. And maybe they're right if you stay down. Staying down feels safe. It feels easier. No more effort. No more risk. No more humiliation. But what feels easier in the moment costs you everything in the end. Let me tell you a workplace story. A man is overlooked for promotion. He feels humiliated, cheated. So he withdraws. He stops trying. He does the bare minimum. For 20 years he sits in the same cubicle, bitter, muttering about how unfair life is. He stayed down. Meanwhile, his colleague passed over for the same promotion rises. She studies what she lacked, learns new skills, seeks mentors, builds influence. A decade later, she is in leadership. To people, one fall. One stayed down, one rose. Which story do you want to live, or take love? A woman gives her heart, only to be betrayed. The pain is unbearable. So she builds walls. Never again, she says. She avoids heartbreak, yes, but also avoids intimacy, joy, connection. She stayed down. Another woman faces the same betrayal, but she chooses to rise. She heals, reflects, learns to set boundaries. Years later, she loves again with more strength, more clarity, more depth. Falling hurts. Rising hurts even more. But staying down kills you slowly. The slow death of staying down is the quietest tragedy of all. Because staying down looks ordinary. The man who gave up on his dreams doesn't collapse in public. He just works a job he hates and numbs himself at night. The woman who gave up on love doesn't scream. She just distracts herself endlessly, convincing herself she is fine alone. The parent who gave up on growth doesn't announce it. He just tells his children, be realistic, passing down fear like an inheritance. This is the pain of staying down. It doesn't make headlines, but it eats souls. History is filled with names we remember because they rose. Edison, Mandela, Jordan, Rowling. But history is also filled with names we never heard. Millions who fell and stayed down. Their stories buried in silence. And that silence, that surrender, is far more common. Why? Because rising is uncomfortable. Staying down is easy. It gives you excuses. It gives you safety. It gives you the false comfort of never trying again. But ask yourself, is safety really safe? The man who never risks again avoids failure, but also avoids greatness. The woman who never loves again avoids heartbreak, but also avoids joy. The dreamer who never tries again avoids humiliation, but also avoids legacy. Staying down feels like survival, but it is not living. Let me give you a real-world example. During the Great Depression, millions lost everything. Some stayed down. They gave up hope, resigned themselves to poverty, never tried again. Others rose. They reinvented themselves, built new businesses, created communities of resilience. Out of that same era came some of the greatest innovations and leaders of the 20th century. The same collapse. Two different responses. Even in health, the same truth applies. A man suffers a heart attack. He can stay down, refusing to change, saying, "What's done is done," sinking further into bad habits. Or he can rise, changing his diet, exercising, rebuilding his body. The first path ends in decline. The second path, in renewal. But let's go deeper. Why do people stay down? Because staying down allows you to avoid responsibility. If you say, "It's fate," you never have to change. If you say, "It's their fault," you never have to grow. If you say, "It's impossible," you never have to try again. But these lies rot your soul. Psychologists call it learned helplessness, the state where, after repeated setbacks, you stop trying, even when the chance to succeed is still there. You train yourself to stay down. And society, without realizing it, encourages it. Be realistic. Don't get your hopes up. Stay in your lane. These are not voices of wisdom. They are voices of surrender. Voices of people who stayed down and now want company in their defeat. But every time you stay down, you betray yourself. You betray the dreams you once had. You betray the potential still inside you. You betray the people who depend on your strength. Staying down is not safety. Staying down is slow death. The art of rising is the only cure. Rising is not luck. Rising is not chance. Rising is art. And like any art, it requires practice. Tools. Discipline. What are the tools? Silence. Boundaries. Focus. Silence is a weapon. When others mock you, insult you, doubt you, don't waste your energy on noise. Stay silent. Work in the shadows. Let results make the noise for you. Boundaries are shields. Risers protect their energy. They don't hand their time to parasites. They don't give their soul to manipulators. They don't beg for respect, they command it by refusing to tolerate disrespect. Focus is fire. Distractions are everywhere. Social media, gossip, endless noise. Weak people scatter themselves until nothing grows. The riser directs his fire to one place, one goal, one discipline, until his whole life burns with purpose. But tools alone are not enough. Rising requires a mindset. The mindset that says, falling is inevitable, rising is optional, and I will always choose to rise. The riser does not ask, "Why me?" He asks, "What now?" The riser does not flee pain. He faces it, knowing that pain faced is pain transformed. The riser does not see struggle as punishment. He sees it as preparation. This mindset changes everything. In work, when your project collapses, you don't crumble. You analyze, you adjust, you try again. That is rising. In love, when betrayal cuts you, you don't swear off intimacy. You set boundaries, you grieve with dignity, and you open your heart again with wisdom. That is rising. In health, when you relapse, you don't drown in guilt. You restart, again and again, until consistency becomes your identity. That is rising. Rising is not once. Rising is daily. It is the quiet choice every morning. The choice to get up when depression says stay down. The choice to keep going when shame whispers you are worthless. The choice to take one more step when exhaustion begs you to stop. Rising looks ordinary. Until years later, when the results look extraordinary. Because rising is the rep that breaks the muscle and rebuilds it stronger. Rising is the fire that burns the steel and shapes it unbreakable. Rising is the dawn that follows every night. And here's another truth. Rising is contagious. Surround yourself with quitters, and you will learn to quit. Surround yourself with risers, and you will learn to rise. The art of rising is not just about mastering yourself. It is about joining the few who refuse to stay down. And when you do, you become unshakable. The falls still come. Life does not spare you, but they no longer own you. Because you have mastered the art of rising. And now comes the call. We all fall, but how you rise, that is what defines you. Your rise is not just for you. It is for everyone who sees you. Everyone who looks to you. Everyone who draws strength from your strength. Your children. Your friends. Your team. Your community. Even your enemies. Because when you rise, you give them permission to rise too. Martin Luther King Jr. fell under beatings, under jail cells, under hatred. But every time, he rose and millions rose with him. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. He could have stayed down in bitterness. But he rose and a nation rose with him. Malala Yousafzai was shot for daring to go to school. She could have stayed down in fear. But she rose and girls around the world rose with her. The rise of one ignites the rise of many. But it is not only the names in history books. It is also the mother working 3 jobs. The immigrant starting from nothing. The addict choosing one more day of sobriety. These quiet risers hold the world together. And so I ask you, who will rise because you do? Your children. Your partner. Your friends who will give up if you don't rise. Because staying down is not just weakness, it is betrayal. When you stay down, you betray those who believe in you. You betray those who need your example. You betray the future that depends on your strength. But when you rise, you honor them. You awaken them. You empower them. The world needs risers now more than ever. Look around. People are drowning in distraction. Addicted to comfort. Paralyzed by fear. Everyone falls, but fewer and fewer remember how to rise. That is why your rise matters. Not just for you. Not just for your family. But for everyone. For this world. So I ask you, where have you stayed down? What dream did you bury because it failed once? What love did you abandon because it hurt? What part of yourself have you silenced because someone mocked it? And how long will you lie there? Because you are not finished. You are only fallen. And fallen is not the end. Fallen is the beginning. The beginning of strength. The beginning of wisdom. The beginning of the rise. But you must choose it. No one can rise for you. Yes, it will hurt. Rising always hurts. Your ego will scream. Your comfort will resist. Your fear will claw at you. But pain is not your enemy. Pain is your proof. Proof that you are alive. Proof that you are growing. Proof that you are rising. And once you rise from one fall, you realize something. You can rise from any fall. And that realization makes you unstoppable. So will you stay down? Or will you rise? Will you let the world remember you as the one who quit, or the one who came back stronger? Will you let your children inherit your fear or your courage? Will you let your story end in defeat or in resurrection? The choice is yours. Fall is inevitable. Rise is optional. And rise, that is where legacy is born. No one admires the man who never fell. He does not exist. We admire the one who fell and rose again. The one who turned pain into wisdom. The one who turned wounds into weapons. The one who turned scars into stories. That can be you if you rise. So rise. Rise like steel through fire. Rise like roots breaking stone. Rise like dawn after the longest night. Rise because you refuse to betray your potential. Rise because the world needs your example. Rise because life is too short to stay on the ground. Rise because falling is human. But rising is divine. You have fallen before, and you will fall again. That part of life is not negotiable. But staying down, that's a choice. And it is the only choice that truly destroys you. Because the world does not remember those who never fell. It remembers those who rose. Those who turned pain into strength. Those who turned scars into stories. Those who refused to stay down. So when the next fall comes, and it will remember this moment. Remember this voice. Remember that you have the power to rise. Rise for yourself. Rise for the ones watching you. Rise for the life you were meant to live. Because falling is human. But rising is divine. And your rise begins now.